Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Leadership Void podcast. I'm Enrique with my co-host Vince. We're excited for this guest that we have here out of the local area doing great things. And Vince, I'm going to let you introduce.
Well, definitely. Welcome, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, we are taking a detour from Colorado and sit down with Terry Spain, founder and CEO of Terry Spain Consulting, LLC, right here in Central Florida. Great to have you, Terry. Let's just kick it off and start telling us a little bit about you.
Thank you. I am glad. First of all, I'm glad to be here. I want to thank you all for the invite. I was very honored when I received the invitation from you all. So just a little bit about me. My name is Terry Spain, retired United States Navy. Go Navy. And I recently retired about 2 years ago. Hence, that's one of the reasons why I'm wearing my Navy hat here. But I started my consulting business about 1.5 years ago, and I'm originally from South Carolina. And as I explained to you all before, I grew up in Naples, Italy, being a military dependent at the time. So that kind of humbled me and shaped me into the person that I am today.
Outstanding. And I know you from the military.
Yes.
We were compadres out there in Gulfport, Mississippi on the CB base. Loving life. And so I'm so happy that you are with us today. Tell us a little bit about your consulting firm and what you're doing.
Okay, thank you. So my consulting firm is, as I told you all before, I had an opportunity to be an instructor at the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute. And when I was there, I kind of developed a passion to diversity and inclusion, more of a passion than what I had initially. And so I decided to, after I retired, start my company, and it's been going pretty good. I specialize in a lot of speaking as it relates to anything human relations, whether it's diversity, inclusion, equal opportunity, unconscious bias, sexual harassment training. So I'm usually teaching in those topics. I've also had an opportunity to consult with other companies to give them some tools to put in their toolbox to make their company excel and shine. So that's pretty much in a nutshell with my consulting business. So it's a combination of consulting and speaking.
And that's great. Honestly, my heart loves D&I as well. DEOMI, I go back 98 too. So long time ago, but it's much needed and definitely love what you're doing. So you've been in it for 1.5 years is what I understand. So right before the pandemic, you were right out the gate. And how did that change or pivot? And how's your company holding up based on what happened in last year?
So as you know, it was challenging. I had some speaking engagements that I had lined up to speak at, and I was looking forward to those. But because of the pandemic, it put a halt on everything. So a lot of businesses, not only just mine, had suffered a lot. So all the speaking engagements that I was supposed to speak at were canceled. And then a couple of months into the pandemic, I started getting reached out from other folks as it relates to doing some virtual training. This is the first time I've been on the virtual scene, as far as, speaking and things of that nature. So initially I was intimidated because I'm so used to walking around. I'm so used to, talking to people. And so doing it virtually was something different, but I'm just glad to know that I'm even more deadlier now because I can do it virtually and I could do it physically in front of someone. So I've been doing a lot of Zoom calls and doing a lot of other media platform calls. And so it's been working out, it's been picking up, and I'm excited about it. And I also had the opportunity to collaborate with other folks who are doing the same line of work that I'm doing too. So that made it even more better.
I'm so happy that you were able to take control and pivot and have the opportunity to go virtual. A lot of businesses and a lot of things that are done, I can't capitalize on that tool and that availability. But your line of work actually falls in line. You could, you just mentioned more deadly. Yeah, there's another, another round in that magazine that you could now use when you're firing out, and that's great. And I love that. Now, tell us where you see 2021. How does 2021 look for you now that you have this availability?
Well, Enrique, that's a great question, and thanks for asking that. I am excited about 2021. I've learned so much in 2020 that that 2021 is you can only go but up from here. So I'm excited about it because I'm going to be collaborating with a lot of folks, and as we're probably going to discuss later on, I did have an opportunity to write a book, and with that book, that opened up a lot of doors for me to collaborate with more authors and just put my name out there even more. So I'm excited for what's to come, and 2021 it looks very, very promising.
Well, congratulations on your book, first and foremost. I'm excited and intrigued to hear about it, and which dives into a little bit of one professional development people do is read, right?
Right.
I'm very curious for you, what professional development areas do you work on to improve your capabilities as a leader?
Excellent question. It's kind of funny because earlier today I put on one of my social media platforms that I received a certification in the mail today from Syracuse University, and during this pandemic, I said to myself, well, if I'm going to make myself better, if I'm going to sharpen my tools, I need to do some more certifications and some training. So for my professional development, I took a few classes at Harvard University, University of Illinois, and Syracuse, and I learned a lot. And so I just, I took a couple public speaking classes, even though public speaking comes natural for me sometimes because of my line of work. I still wanted to make sure that I am good to go, and that I know that there's some stuff that I can work on. So that public speaking class that I took through Harvard really helped out a lot. And so just reading certifications and collaborating with people who are like-minded or who knows a lot more than I do. So I learn, I pick their brains, and that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I love that approach. And you obviously took advantage of the downtime worldwide, right? To
Right.
hone your skills, to pad your capabilities, because you're going out talking to people, talking to companies, instructing leaders on D&I and inclusion and all that deals with that area of life. And you just made yourself better for
Correct.
those future how you call it, employers, right? Because they're going to be giving you work, but you those clients that you will be serving, and that's great to hear. When it comes to leadership, and both you and I served at leadership capacities in our service time,
Mhm.
what advice would you give those emerging, those new leaders coming up the ranks that you may have received that helped you out even till today?
That's the $1,000,000 question. But you know what? First of all, I can attest, honestly, for me being a chief petty officer, retired chief petty officer in the Navy, when I was in, I never forget when I made chief, I had a few chiefs that came up to me, and you were one of the ones that in particular that came up to me and said, hey, you cannot do it all by yourself. And so often you see a lot of these younger leaders that are coming up because of the opportunities that they have and the platform that they may be able to get on, because it's so easy to jump on a platform. They feel like they could do it all by themselves. And that's definitely not the case, because that's where burnout comes. That's where the lack of passion happens. So one of the things that I usually tell folks who ask me about my line of work and interested in doing this, I tell them first, read, do your homework, be humble. You have to be humble in this line of work and be open to criticism. A lot of folks that I've encountered that are younger, they're not open to the criticism. And I can't say that at one time that I wasn't either, because it used to be a time when I wasn't responding to criticism too. No one really likes criticism, but unless it's coming from a good place. But I usually tell them that, and I tell them just to be receptive for what somebody may offer you, and for those who paved the way for you, and they tend to respond to that. So I'm happy about that. We have some dynamic people that are young people that are coming through the ranks that are doing some amazing things, and I'm just glad that they come to me oftentimes and ask my opinion on certain things, because I did the same exact thing. I asked leaders who I know that were doing the right thing, and they gave me some tools, and I use those tools, and I build houses, and I shape and I mold other people so they can and reciprocate and do the same exact thing.
That's great. And it just reminds me of an old chief told me, there's no I in team. And I didn't really understand what that meant, right? And to your point is understanding and taking that criticism. And because one thing you train on is unconscious bias, and some of us have a lot of that and we don't know because it is unconscious. And dealing with that comes challenges, right?
Right.
And the challenges might be looked at as opportunities or, defeats. So how do you, Terry, handle challenges that you're faced or currently facing?
Thanks for that question. I live and die by the API method. And for me, the API method is assess, plan, implement, and then evaluate. So I use those things every time I'm building something, or any time that I'm utilizing a different platform. I use those methods and I live by them, and I just evaluate and see what works and what doesn't work. And that's how I kind of, build everything that I've been doing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You say API, and you instantly made me hungry, brother. And I know we're talking about leadership development, right? So, so I'm gonna equate that to you just got to be hungry, right? You got to be hungry in leadership.
Exactly.
You got to be hungry when you're trying to do.
I like that.
But when when we develop folks, when we train people, when we assess people. And we have all these plans. Sometimes things, they just don't go the way they're supposed to. We was facing one of those challenges before we started, right? So there's always strategies that are good to implement. What and especially during times of change, right? We had a big time of change last year, and we continue to go down that road. What strategies would you and ways to overcome changes, what would you advise folks that they can use as ways to strategize for change?
Well, wow, and you really got me thinking now. My wheels are spinning. But one of the strategies that I would use is look. Oftentimes, when you go through different things, it had happened to someone before, or this country before. So the pandemic, for one thing, we had a pandemic that happened in the early 1900s, and so I noticed that a lot of the doctors and scientists were using some of those same strategies, like when we had the outdoor clinics outside and in the middle of the field and things of these natures that they were using to help with this pandemic. So the biggest thing that I would say is look at things that have been done before, and then you build off of those. And that's what I've been doing. And quite honestly, it has worked out. I took some methods from other folks, and of course I asked them first, can I use their methods? And then I just kind of build off those methods and kind of tailor it towards me. And I implemented those, and then this reciprocated, because I've had a few people that say, hey, I like how you're doing this. Do you mind if I borrow this? And I said, I don't mind. Just go ahead and tailor it towards what you're liking. And it's been working out. So it's been reciprocating over the years. So that's what I would say is look what has been done before, and just tailor it toward those likings.
Oh yes, basically what it sounds like to me is don't reinvent the wheel, right?
Don't reinvent the wheel. And I was going to say that.
And that's true in using the API method. And it has to be delicious for the mind, right?
Exactly, exactly.
It's great stuff, Terry. We love that what you have to say, and we love what you're doing. Um, we want you to continue going forward another 5, 10, 20 years down the road. So folks that are interested in contacting you or contacting Terry Spain Consulting, how do they go about doing that?
Well, there's a few ways. You can go to terryspainconsulting.com. That's my website. And then if you wanted to email me, it's tsconsulting21 at gmail.com. But also on the website, they have all my information on there as well. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm also on your local, your typical social media platform, whether it's Instagram, which is Terry Spain 21. And I'm also on Facebook, and you'll see it has Terry Spain Consulting LLC. If you type that in, those are ways that you can reach me.
Outstanding. And we'll make sure to put all that information as part of the video or the show notes, so they'll be able to contact you. Everybody listening, if you want to contact the Leadership Void podcast, the Leadership Void at gmail.com is how you do that. If you have comments or suggestions for shows, or you want to be on the show, or you want to send us some nice garb to wear, I don't know if you've noticed, but hey, we're wearing some nice stuff now.
Yes, you are.
And we're all, we're all combining here or teaming up in what we're wearing. But we love to support your mission. If you want to be on the show, or you want us to support you that way, we'd be glad to do it. Terry, before we get into the end of this thing, tell us a little bit about the book. You mentioned a book. You didn't say anything about the book. I want to know about the book.
All right. So, all right, I'll let you in on the secret. No, I'm joking. It's out. My book is, and I have it here, just a shameless plug. It's a quick and easy read. I didn't want to have a huge book, and a lot of folks would get kind of intimidated by reading it. So what I did is I wanted to take a easy read and have people to give people an opportunity to write down in this book. So this book actually gives you some time to write the notes, the questions that I ask in there, you can answer them to kind of challenge yourself. This book is a motivational book, but not only that, it's a leadership book. I break down some of the things that have happened to me in my life and in my career that made me the person that I am today. I thank God daily for allowing me to write this book and have the access to talk to you all on this platform about the book. This book will definitely motivate you. This book will definitely get you to thinking. And one of the things that really took me by back, speechless. I'm hardly ever speechless, but I received a message from someone that said, "Hey, I had an opportunity to read your book, my son and I, and we're going to utilize those principles that you had in those books, and we're going to buy some of your books and give them to other young men so they can be motivated as well." That did a lot for me, because that let me know that folks are actually reading the book and they're paying attention to it, and it's doing exactly what I wanted to do. A quick, easy read. You can write and challenge yourself, and it motivated that person along with their son. So I'm excited about that.
And that's wonderful. You receive validation of the great work that you put, sweat equity and everything you poured into that motivational book. So thank you for putting it out there. And you impacted one family, and hopefully a ripple effect impacts 20, 30, 40 more families. So definitely, folks, take care of Mr. Terry Spain and his book out there. What's the title of the book, sir?
It's called Just Lead. But I have one other thing before I actually had a couple other gentlemen that I want to acknowledge, because they actually wrote a portion in the book. So Raymond Kemp he was a fellow chief of mine. I asked him to write just a page about leadership because he has a lot of leadership characteristics. So I was really glad that he did it. I had another good friend of mine whose name is Edward Johnson, another fellow chief. He as soon as I asked, he was right there on the spot. Then Gary Richardson, who's also a retired Air Force personnel, and he did an outstanding job with his leadership. He's one of the people that is one of my mentors actually, and I look up to him. And then last but not least is one of my really good friends. His name is Gregory Cole. He did the same exact thing. When I asked him to write a portion in the book about leadership, none of these gentlemen hesitated or dragged their feet. They did it, and they did it in a timely manner. So I really appreciate them as well, and I want to thank them for contributing to the book also.
And I know they honor just to know that you mentioned them. And you know what? Back to our professional development, reading is fundamental. Take
Yes.
a copy of Terry's book because it is delicious to the mind and to your soul. And for everybody else out there, thank you for joining in. We are still in the hunt to be 100 in our YouTube channel. Right now, we're 84 strong. We
Oh
need
yeah, you'll get there.
more folks to subscribe. So please subscribe on our YouTube channel, The Leadership Voice Podcast. And for everyone else out there, we are going to give away that book right there, From the Prairie to the Pentagon, as a gift for these 50 folks. It's going to definitely be awesome if you get that read as well. So please join and subscribe. We do radio check twice, 15th and 1st of every month, coming up real quick next week at 1900, 7 o'clock. Join us for our radio check, a live broadcast, just to check in our battles, see how they're doing. Comms are up. So please check in on that. And lastly, next week, we're going back to the Lone Star State to speak to another dynamic veteran. But for today we have Terry Spain. Thank you for being here. We're honored and blessed. And
All mine. One last thing before, I would like to thank my wife and my daughter, who are like my biggest cheerleaders. So I appreciate them as well, and all my family and friends who have definitely been very supportive. So I thank them for that.
Right.